On the Listening Post, we spend a good deal of time monitoring the Fourth Estate, and sometimes we find that when the news media fail to fulfill their obligations, political satire can fill the vacuum. The Clinic from Chile is an example of that. When the magazine was born in 1998, it was just a counter-cultural underground pamphlet, but it soon grew. In a country still dealing with the fallout from the dictatorial Pinochet era, where journalists have admitted to being complicit through their silence in the human rights crimes committed during that time and accused subsequently of failing to go back and properly tell that story even in retrospect, the Clinic's surreal and absurdist humor has found an audience. Not through the militant rhetoric of the traditional Latin American left, but rather with a finely honed irony and enough edge to engage even the most cynical reader. It is tough to find a politician in Chile who the Clinic has not ridiculed, a taboo it has not discussed. Religion, sexuality, birth control, corruption, indigenous rights, they're all in there. And somehow the magazine has grown into one of the more influential and respected sources of political journalism in the country, a sign perhaps that Chile and its media may finally be moving on. The Listening Post's Marcela Pizarro now on a magazine that was born in Santiago but was conceived in London.
A magazine that would have Augusto Pinochet turning in his grave. He's been photoshopped as Che Guevara, as Frankenstein, as a mobster, as Darth Vader. One of the most famous front pages was when he died in 2006. That photo of him lying in wake, tampered with, one eye open, warning the people of Chile that Big Brother was still watching. These days, the Clinic not only lampoons Pinochet's memory, but the entire cast of the political elite. From the incoming left-wing leader, Michelle Bachelet, to the blunder-prone outgoing right-wing president, Sebastián Piñera.
The Clinic takes up the satirical tradition of 19th century journalism. It fills a niche because of its irreverence. It's able to surprise us by breaking norms of what is expected. The magazine represents an impertinent and dissonant voice in the concert that is the homogeneous media in Chile's transition, which tends to just echo the voices of those in power. It shakes up what journalism should be about.
The Clinic owes its title to a news story that broke on October the 16th, 1998.
Augusto Pinochet, former strongman of Chile, is under arrest in London.
Pinochet was having treatment in a private hospital called the Clinic.
Before the Clinic, papers were very conventional in terms of form and content. They all copied the examples from the Northern Hemisphere, like the Wall Street Journal or El País. The Clinic competes with them. The front pages rupture what you expect to see. At the beginning, you couldn't work out whether it was a serious paper or not. In a way, they were doing it on purpose. They were mocking the traditional press, so full of pages, so full of formality, so full of words, but saying so very little.
Apart from the traditional subjects like human rights, it has also offered different opinions in debates that were previously taboo: sexuality, drugs, and all those value-laden subjects, which those mainstream outlets did not want to broach.
Because although the dictatorship of Augusto Pinochet ended in 1990, it cast a long shadow, silencing voices, suppressing memories. The country's mainstream media has struggled to cover the reality of Chile's painful past, and the Clinic was one of the few voices that broke through that self-induced censorship. The magazine had humble beginnings as a bi-monthly black and white newsletter with an initial print run of just 13,000 copies. Some 500 editions later, it's published weekly with almost 140,000 readers, more than 500,000 Twitter followers, and a website with more than 3 million visitors a month in a country of around 17 million people. And it's getting that kind of attention, not just because of the rude gags, but because readers know they can't find this kind of content anywhere else. The Clinic has branched out. It's doing in-depth investigations, high-profile interviews, and provocative political analysis. Last year, the magazine led the way in its coverage of the 40th anniversary of the Pinochet coup. It published a 68-page report exposing torturers.
But it's not just the human rights story that the clinic has managed to tell differently.
At
the beginning, the human rights issue was central to our output, but I think that time moves on and some of these attempts to keep memory alive end up sounding trite. What does remain key is to defend democracy. We were the first ones to establish a relationship with the 2011 student movement. We took to the streets alongside them because we feel part of the movement. We even invited them to guest edit one of the issues.
It's become a media outlet that generates opinion and which brings issues to the public sphere. So much so that it's setting the agenda. So when Michelle Bachelet came back to Chile to announce that she would be standing for president after 4 years away from national politics, the first interview she gave was to the clinic.
Cutting satire, wicked parodies of the powerful, it's a wonder the clinic's never been taken to court. And it doesn't just tout left-wing voices, there are right-wingers in the newsroom too. Still, most advertisers won't go near it. So it's managed to build another kind of business model. By selling merchandise and opening a bar called The Clinic. And since 2005, it's been the best-selling magazine in Chile.
With the clinic, there's a sense of anticipation when it comes out on Thursdays. And that's an interesting phenomenon. It's very instinctive, and it shows how the magazine garners loyalty in people.
Often we think that formal papers, with all the visual and linguistic conventions that give them their sobriety, that kind of journalism is the purveyor of truth. But that truth is just as constructed as the one the clinic offers. It's just that the clinic breaks that vertical relationship and positions the journalist at the same level as the reader. The journalist is a guy you might find in a bar. He's talking to me about the same things, but in a different way. It's not journalism as we traditionally understand it, but it doesn't mean it's not talking about what is real, and it doesn't stop it having substance.
Our humour is central for this. What grows without humour is totalitarianism. Totalitarianism of different kinds, religious and political, because people need to know how to laugh at themselves. And to be honest, I think the magazine actually occupies a larger space than it should. If the clinic had come out of a country with a lively plural press, it would have just remained a marginal outlet.
Things have changed in Chile since the times of Pinochet. Next month, the first woman in the country's history to be voted president will be sworn into office for the second time. But that doesn't mean that there won't be photos to shop, politicians to rib, taboos to break, truth to be told. Because Chileans go to the clinic for the kind of treatment of the news the mainstream media won't provide.